Hey, so while I'm waiting for my parts to show up for my two other pending projects, what I decided is why not start another project in the interim. So this is a pretty simple project, or I hope it is going to be a pretty simple project. I'm going to put some Shinko Mobbers on this Dax125. It is basically a brand new bike. I've put a high fender on, as evidenced here by my foot. And I put some bar risers, again, you can see right here, and some mirrors. I'm going to actually just point at that. Mirrors, I'm going to slather myself in off or some deep base product so the mosquitoes don't eat me alive today, and we're going to try and put some mobbers on this thing and maybe change the front sprocket and the chain to a 428 chain. We'll see if that happens or not. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to change the front tire on this bike. I've got it jacked up so that the front tire is off the ground, and so we're going to start with the front tire. And I'm just working here on my front porch or front walkway, because this is the most convenient for doing this short kind of project. I'm taking photos and I'm looking at how this is. See, there's a spacer on that side and a spacer on that side. And the caliper is good. All of this is new, so I don't have to worry too much about putting in brake pads. But if I were doing this to an older bike, I would definitely look at the brake pads and check that. And then on this side, for the back, I'll probably get a Sharpie out and mark where I am on either side. We can see so that I have an idea on where I'm supposed to be. You can already see that that chain is a little rusty. I've got like a little different chain that I think I'm going to put on today. So depending on how motivated I get, once you get taking the back tire off, you're kind of starting with some things. And so it's a little bit more complicated, and while you're in there, you might as well do X. I may change the rear sets on this as well, depending on how time goes. I've got a set of monkey rear sets that don't have the rear foot pegs, but I very rarely carry people, and that will allow me to use a different shifter. And then I do have a shifter support, so you can kind of see how this stuff kind of snowballs. So I'm going to do what I feel like I can do. My main intent or main goal today is just to get a set of mobbers on this thing, and then we'll go from there, seeing how late my Amazon package shows up, and how much time I have. So 19 millimeter on this outside bone and a 14 millimeter on this. I'm just going to take that off, and then we'll pull the axle. So pretty easy, just righty tighty, lefty loosey. So you lefty loosey this and pull it out. When you pull it out, you're gonna lose those shims on the sides. Just keep track of them, because you don't want to. You need them to put everything back together. And if they were different sizes, they look to be the same size. You would want to keep track of which one is left and which one is right, but I think they're the same. They're the same on both sides. We'll look at them together. Okay. Hey, there's a little valve, and the air just escaped out of that. Then the next thing to do is we're going to go around here and try and break this bead. Break the bead on the tire. We'll use I'll use some specialty tools because I have them. People do this all sorts of ways. You can stand on it and try and break that bead, or you can use some specialty tools. I have these tools right here. They're Motion Pro, and basically what I do is use everything's rusty. I use this end with this, creates a little pry mechanism. You press them together, and then that breaks the bead. It makes it pretty easy to get the bead off. If I were going to tell you to buy some tire irons, I tell you to buy these Motion Pro B Pro. They're awesome and they work really well. And then you can also get like cheapy Amazon ones. I have a bunch of these tire irons because I'm a hoarder. Anyway, it is what it is. We're gonna lay this. I'm gonna take one of these paper bags here on the left, lay it down, move back a little bit, and then so I don't scratch this up terribly, although I am going to scratch this up. Pretty sure by the time we're done today it'll have some scratches. Adds character. Anyway, I'm going to take that tire off and then put a new tire on. That new tire has been sitting in the sun. You want to do this on a warmer day typically. That allows the tire to get pliable, more pliable, and then we're going to use some soap as well, a little soapy water to kind of help ease all of the processes. Yeah, so next step is to get this tire off. Okay, so the wheel is off, and we need to take the little valve that's out of this, zoom in, this valve out. You have this special tool. You get these on Amazon for $4, short ones, long ones, and it just basically takes that valve out. It's called a Schrader valve. I guess it's probably named after the German who invented it, if I had to guess. And then basically what's going to happen is that's just going to let all the air out. Keep that little valve. It's going to come out as a unit. Keep it clean, and then we're going to put it back in when we put the new tire on, but we take it off for that. Okay, you can see that the bead is broken, and when I talk about the bead, I'm just going to explain this like you've never done this before. There's a metal in the outside edge of the rubber. There's like a wire, and that when I get the tire off I'll explain a little better, but basically what happens is that sets against this and creates a mechanical bond, so that if the tire loses air it still has a bond there, and that's what keeps it airtight. And that's called the bead, basically between here and this like edge. And so what we're doing is we're gonna have to pull this off. In order to do that, there's like a valley in the center of the rim. You push the tire down into the valley, and then that creates a little room to move the tire that way. And so by pushing down on this side and getting this into the valley on the tire, I don't know if you can see that, probably not with this light, but anyway, I'll show you when the rim is off. It creates room on that side of the tire to be pulled, and so we're going to start prying on that side of the tire to try and get the edge of the tire over this. So a bit of tugging and prying and sweating, some blood and tears, maybe some cursing words too. Anyway, again, broke the bead on that one side, so now what we're going to see, basically all we do is insert that and then use the other tool to kind of create the pry, and then I just press with my hands to get that around. Yeah. So there's the tire off. There's some scratches on the inside of the rim, you can see. I'm less worried about that. So now I'm going to go get the other tire, and we're going to start prepping it to go on. That back edge was a little hard. Just understand that you're dealing with mechanical forces here, and it takes a bit of strength to make this happen. And that's okay. It's just what it is. If you don't want to do that, you can either take the tires off, take them to a mechanic and ask them to do it, and they'll charge you something for it. Sometimes if you find a good mechanic who doesn't charge a ton, it's worth doing. For me, on a Sunday afternoon, I'll do this. Yeah, it's, you know, I enjoy it. Somewhat. The tire's not so great. I enjoy the look of the machine after the tires are changed, and I enjoy being able to do the work myself. I like being self-sufficient. So anyway, I'll get the tire and we'll go from there. Okay, Shinko Mobbers. They're a little wet, but they've been basically sitting in the sun, and so they're nice and pliable, or they're starting to get pliable. I'm going to use soap and water. This is just palm olive soap and water, because I want to create a slick surface, and I'm basically going to put the limb and then try and push it down into that, so that I only have one side to really work on. We'll see if that works or not. And again, this is how I do it. It's not a professional way, it's just the way I do it. So yeah, So if you have a direction of travel, you want to make sure you put it on in the direction of travel. This is the way the tire rotates. If I flip this tire up and go forward, it's gonna roll this way, and so I'm just making sure that I get the tire rotation correct. If I not, I'll just flip the tire over and get it to where it goes correct. Okay, I've got everything wet with soapy water, so it's nice and slick. I'm gonna start by trying to push one end down and then work with those spoons to get the rest of that in. So I've pushed, at this point I haven't used the spoons, I've just pushed the tire down on one side, and of course it wants to not stay there, and so I'm using my body weight, which is one of the few advantages of being a little heavier. I'm using my body weight to keep the tire down. Again, if I can create that space by putting the opposite end of the tire in the valley of the tire of the wheel, that allows this end to have a little more stretch that direction. Okay, I'm going to point out a couple things. I did scratch the rim. I'm just going to go over that with some black marker, permanent marker, paint marker. That'll touch that up. No deep gouges, just scratches. I don't know, on this side, and a couple over here. And that was probably more from working on a hard surface than from the spoons. And so anyway, all I'm going to do is touch that up a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about setting the bead and how that happens. Sometimes it's a stubborn deal, and so what you can do is put a ratchet strap around the outside edge of the tire and ratchet that down, and that forces the bead, the edge of this tire, towards this place on the tire. Yeah, that's what I used to do. I bought a tool that blows a lot of air quickly, and that's what I used to set this. Basically, was I tried to just use the compressor. That didn't work, and so I needed to set the bead. I have this tool that you collects air pressure, and then you press a button and it releases all that air pressure very, very fast through a little nozzle. I used that and it actually worked first time I'd used it, so that's pretty exciting. And so now I'm just going to fill this tire up to whatever I think it says 38. I usually run 30 some odd pounds. I'm going to run 33 psi on this thing, and then we're going to 33 psi, and then we're going to remount the tire and then take the back tire off. So I'm going to break the axle. I'm going to not break the axle. I'm going to loosen the axle bolts while it's on the ground, kind of take pictures again, just to make sure I know where everything's at, and then pull that tire. I may swap the rear sprocket. I ordered some stuff from Japan, and like I said, change the chain. The chain's going to have to come off anyway to get the tire on. So this may be a good opportunity to do that. Amazon still hasn't shown up with my other project supply, so I'm just going to keep working on this so I don't squander the day. Okay, so there's the tire on. I need to tighten that up. I need to go get the torque spec on that. I'm going to clack it on really quickly and then get a torque spec and torque it just to make sure. Don't want the axle flying out or the bolt falling off. Yeah. Okay. You'll see that there's a number printed right there. It says Q3 on the tire. And then that represents the lightest spot on the tire. And so that's typically where you put your valve stem. And so you put your valve stem on that, you get a better chance of having a balanced tire. Okay, so back tire is off. I pulled the Schrader valve there. So there's my Schrader valve. We'll set that right there where it's gonna get lost later. And now I've got to break the bead. I'll use those same set of tools, the Motion Pro bead pros right here. Put that in, pry it down, and then pry that off. Pry the whole tire off. This is a 130. I realize that other tire's a 120. I think they sent me two 120s. Now I'm gonna go look and see if I have a 130 in the garage. I think I do. And I'll put a 130 on this. I don't want to put a smaller tire on. Yeah. So we're gonna pull this tire off, and then probably what we're gonna do is I've ordered a bunch of sprockets. This is a 34 tooth sprocket, and so in order to go a little faster, you can change the sprocket size so that this spins more revolutions per pull of the chain. And so I think the general rule of thumb is like you change one sprocket tooth in the back, it's like changing 3, or in the front, and it's like changing 3 in the back. So I've got some spare, and I want to go to a bigger chain, and so this is set up for like a 420 chain, and I want to put on a 428 chain, similar to what the CTs run, a little beefier chain. And the reason I want to do that is I've got a high compression piston and I've got a little stronger engine setup coming for this one, and so I'm going to do the chain and kind of prep for that. So I'm going to pull this off and put a new sprocket on. While I'm doing that, I'm going to pull the tire off and do that at the same time, and we'll go from there. Okay, so there's the Amazon truck. Yay. This may get... How's it going? This is a 34 tooth sprocket, and this is a 39 tooth sprocket from Katako. You can see that it is a CT 125 sprocket, which is basically a 428 chain. A 428 right there. Anyway, all that to say, probably like jumping 2 teeth in the front, and so I'm gonna run with this one, and then see what it does to the bike in general. I'll leave the front tooth sprocket the same, and then we'll just go with that ratio, see how it plays. If I don't like it, I'll just swap some stuff around again. Alright, so tires off. That came off a little easier than the first one, and so that's good. We'll now put that one on, and it turns out that is a 130, so it is a rear tire. I think maybe I thought I ordered 2 130s to run bigger in the front as well, but this is a rear tire and supposedly designed as a rear tire. Anyway, I'm going to put it on in the direction, making sure to follow wherever I find the mark on the tire. That's where I'm going to put the valve stem. So first edge of that rim is on, and that wasn't terrible. I just put some tire protectors on the other side of the rim and then pried a little bit, and it plops on. I'm going to do the same side to this thing. I need to do that, and then we'll worry about trying to set the bead on the tire. So I've removed the chain and the sprocket. There's a little door that goes on here that keeps 2 8mm bolts, and that comes off, protecting the chain. I'm going back with a 15 tooth sprocket, but this is a 15 tooth for a 428 chain, which is just a little bit wider. And I've got the chain as well, and so I'm going to put this on and then use that to just go up with the ratios. I'm basically making it higher speed, so my third gear will pull taller, longer, harder, longer for longer anyway. So we'll see. Okay, so I've put the front sprocket and the new rear sprocket on, and I've stretched the new chain. You can see the chain is a little long, so what I'm going to do is use my rotary tool to just zip off the chain at that length, and then I'll use the provided end link, put that on, and the chain will be done. And I'll just tighten the axle up, make sure everything's kind of square. I ended up at about 2 splits like here, so pretty close to the front. I moved it forward from the stock place. That gives me a little room if this chain stretches to move it back. If I move down sprocket in the front, which is the most likely option, that also would mean the chain would move back as the sprocket would grow smaller. There's also room for maybe going up a tooth, so it's got some room. I'm going to zip that chain off and then put the end link on, and we'll go from there. Oh yeah, here's the Dax after we've done the tires. Shinko Mobbers. I think they look great. Got everything back together. Took it for a little ride. I'll see about that. We got the new chain on, and the new front sprocket and rear sprocket. So it's running a 39 sprocket in the front and a 15 in 39 in the back and 15 in the front. And I'll do some calculations and show that compared to stock. It seems pretty spry. I don't know if the tire size changed a ton, but anyway, yeah, feels great.